Welcome to our container security group meeting. Looks like I've got the first item, so I'll go ahead and kick it off. I created a small epic around tech debt and performance improvements for the alert dashboard that we just released. I think between Zamir and John, they had a few suggestions, and the maintainers had some suggestions, just kind of small things that ended up getting pushed out from the initial MVC. So we want to make sure to address those and not leave those hanging too long. So I just wanted to walk this through planning breakdown and make sure there are not any open questions or unanswered items with this one. So this one has three basically issues in it. I rolled those up just to summarize them up here on the epic. Updating the version of Hubble, scoping the validation of fingerprint uniqueness to domain. There's like some odd edge case that's really unlikely, but we could run into a fingerprint collision in some really rare circumstances. And then just some general code refactoring to make it work a little bit better and more performant, avoiding some expensive calls. And then at the end, of course, we want to run another manual end-to-end test once we get done with all of that, just to make sure everything still works and that our fixes didn't break something else. Are there any questions on this, or are we comfortable moving this to refinement?
I think we are comfortable moving this one to refinement. The first two items is basically, as you said, just performance stuff. The MR was, the first MR that I opened was like 2,000 lines. So then I didn't want to add this little stuff over there.
Yeah.
And then the fingerprint one, as you mentioned, it was a change that the monitoring team changed their part of the code that kind of affect us. And they kind of ping John in order to make sure that we are on the same page. And the other things are yeah, as you mentioned them. I think we're good at.
I have a quick question. We created this follow-on epic, which was originally around design changes. It was supposed to be pretty front-end only. We've got a couple of issues that have crept in there because they didn't know where else to live. That aren't design issues? Should they move here? I put them in the agenda.
Other issues that have crept in.
Yeah, L7 support and end-to-end testing. Neither of those actually classify as design issues per se. So I thought, I don't know, maybe this would be a more appropriate epic for them to live in.
Yeah, I think we ended up just moving some of those that didn't make it out.
It's just the two. It's the L7 support, which is a back-end issue that I think Samir is already working on, and the end-to-end testing, which I know we've had other conversations about, and it would help us for this type of work as we're making more performance improvements to have automated end-to-end tests in place.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know that these would really be tech debt items either. Well, end-to-end testing might be. Maybe we just move these into their own epics, since you're right, they technically don't really belong in this bucket either. So
I don't know if everything needs an epic. I don't know if that's a rule per se, but I just know that it felt a little funny that they were in one that was intended to be around front-end design changes.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, why don't we just move these out? I can update that. I'll move these out of here. I don't know that they belong in this one either, but maybe we just move these out.
That, I would argue that the end-to-end testing one is tech debt. The fact that we don't have any automated tests around this is something that is debt that we need to address.
Yeah, I agree. I think the L7 support is really it's a follow-on, more of like a feature enhancement, and it's not a design update. It's just other follow-on work. So maybe I'll just move that out to stand on its own.
Just sorry to interrupt you over there. L7 is implemented. I'm just waiting for it to get deployed so I can test it. So probably the tag is on verification or something over there. It should be.
Yeah, that sounds great. I'll just move this though for a matter of organization though, so it's under the I'll just move it under the general security orchestration minimal to viable epic. I can do that later too. and we'll viable. And yeah, I'll move this one as well after the call. Okay, great. So we'll move this one. I guess you said, Lindsay, with our new process, we leave it in planning breakdown until after, I guess we have our implementation issues here already.
Yeah, Sim, I'm just
Move
learning
to refinement.
I'm just learning how your process has been a bit different here in container security. So whatever is working for you and the team so far, I'm not trying to throw wrenches in any way.
All right, I will move this to refinement.
And this already has issues broken down, you know, as opposed to when we just look at a kind of a naked epic that's got no implementation issues. That to me, the creation of those implementation issues feels like planning breakdown, but this already has them. So this would, I think, totally make sense in refinement.
Great. All right, so that's all I had for that one. Annabelle has some designs to walk through. If it's okay, before we kick that off, actually, I stopped sharing my screen too fast. Just for a little bit of additional context on this one. As you remember, last week we did our walkthrough of this big DAST project level scan executions policies epic. Annabelle is working on designs for phase 3. So this isn't really ready for planning breakdown yet. But we have some designs. It's been in the design workflow state for a while, and we just want to talk those through with the team, and probably we'll put this through planning breakdown next week. But this would be phase 3 when we're still storing everything in that repository. The permissions are still managed in that separate repository. Most of this is still the same, but we're starting to introduce some UI that will supplement and eventually replace the experience in that separate security policy repository. So again, I just wanted to set some context. We're talking about this third iteration, and we're not trying to move it to the refinement state yet, but just wanted to walk through some of our thoughts there and get feedback from the team.
Yeah, so thanks for updating. I had MVC Phase 2. So this is part 3. I'm going to show, I'll share my screen and just please let me know if there are any edge cases I am missing or any other things that come up. I linked to the issue in the agenda too. So you should be able to see all the designs here and you can comment on them if you want to. So for phase 3, we're going to have the project selector isn't going to be, this is the page that you would previously be seeing, just the project selector, and then you would go to your other repo and set up your stuff. Now we're going to have the page display all of the policies that are associated with that project. If you're new to the page, you should see this empty state. The illustration is still, that's just a placeholder, but you can select your project and then create your first policy from this page. And this is for if the project has no policies associated with it. I think that's the correct flow. And then if you come back to the page later, you should see either if you don't have any policies, you'll have this empty state, and you can either create a new policy from here or click edit policy project, and this will bring you back to that project selection dropdown. That should be a dropdown, not a clear icon. If you hit save, it'll update that project, and then when you create new policies, it'll be saved to that project. It'll also display the policies associated with that project here. And then you can use the filters. I think we already have this all in the demo. There have been a couple small UI tweaks enabled. If it's enabled, you'll have this check mark. If it's pending approval, which is something that I think will happen in another iteration, we'll have a different icon. And then we'll have that drawer that we already have. You can edit the policy. You can't edit the scan or the profiles from here yet. And then here's the YAML only version. You can update your policy or create a new one from here. And if there's a namespace, or sorry, not a namespace collision, if we already have that name somewhere in that project, then you'll have an error state. I think that's all the states for that. Does that make sense? Does anyone have
So this would be
questions?
merging the new new security and compliance policies page with what we have today under the policies tab in threat monitoring. So this would bring it all into one spot. Whereas with our first MVC, it still is going to be sort of split. We're going to have two policy sections in the UI. This will bring it all together into one location.
If we're bringing them into one location, right now the policies tab doesn't require you to select the security project. You can add policies in the project itself, whereas the new page we're creating does require a security project. Are we making both pages now require a security project?
No, so if you don't have any policies at all, then you would get that blank state. But if you have at least one policy, then you would get that list view UI that Annabelle's showing. And as soon as you create your first policy of a scan execution type, because the network policies are written and read directly into Kubernetes. So those policies do not require a security policy project. But as soon as you create a scan execution policy, that one does require a security policy project. So one of the requirements of this epic is if they go to create a new policy, if they don't already have a policy project associated, then we're going to automatically create that for them and automatically link it. So they don't have to worry about doing that. So that would just be a behind the scenes thing. There's no UI involved in that. But if they, suppose they come to this page, they only have network policies, no scan execution policies at all. They hit new policy, they make a new scan execution one. It should all just work without them needing to stress or even think about the fact that they don't have a security policy project yet. It'll just create one for them.
Right. So just so I make sure I understand this, if I create a new project and I want to create a network policy, when I go to the policies page, what view am I going to see? Am I going to see this first time user?
So you'll get that
page?
blank state there. And when you first come here, you will not have any project no project will be selected in that drop down. But you can still click create a policy even without selecting a project first.
And then create a policy will take me to the create
page. Policy page. Yep, it'll take you to that there on the right. And up there you can pick your policy type, either scan execution or network policy. If it's a network policy, it's just written directly to the Kubernetes cluster. If it's a scan execution policy, then we would automatically create that security policy project for you behind the scenes and link it up and put it in the YAML file.
Got it.
So now that you mentioned that, I do think it's the state right here makes it seem like you really do need to select a project. And now I'm thinking,
and it actually is optional. Yeah, it's
I mean,
optional.
I wrote leave it blank, but no one really reads help text. So I may have to rethink that. Like I was just thinking scan execution policies because I'm usually on DAST anyway. So I wasn't thinking of the other policies, and this is a little confusing. I'll think about that one. But
I have a question. Sorry.
I was just going to say too, I'm not actually clear on when you see this page, it's not that you don't have any policies created with that project, because if you've already kind of seen this page, you'll see this empty state. This should not be here. So you'll only see this if you're when would you see this?
That was going to be my question. What would be the difference between this screen over there from the one that you have on the bottom in terms of not having a policy? But right. I was thinking that I was not sure about the workflow there.
Yeah, we could just keep the empty state that you have down and to the right. That might be a better empty state.
So a user would come here and we could update this text. Yeah. And that way you can create a new policy without even worrying about a policy project.
Yep.
That might be nice because that makes that selecting a project thing is a little not awkward, but it can be a little strange. So it's an option, you can do that, but also we're going to auto create it anyway if you don't. So I think that's actually better. Okay, we'll do this as the empty state.
So yeah, this whole thing is a stepping stone to hiding away that security project altogether.
And then the tab that we have right now under threat monitoring, it's going to vanish, right?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. Okay.
Samir, I think the last time I was talking to you about the policies tab is sort of when you create a new project, you get 2 policies for free, right? You get like drop ingress or something.
Yeah. Yes, you're right. But those are not deployed. They're just there for in case the user wants to install them.
Yeah, they're disabled by default.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's
so
true. So, I mean, unless they went in and deleted those, I mean, we still want to code for an empty state because they could, I suppose, go in and remove them, but
totally, I agree with that.
it would be unlikely that they would hit that empty state unless they actually did some stuff to, like, outside of a normal workflow. It'd be an edge case.
Okay.
But that's still a good point, Alexander, because we would remove that feature, right? We would lose that feature out of the box network policies.
Yeah.
We would lose, yeah, we would lose that feature, Zamir?
Yeah, if we move to this, if we move everything to this screen that we have right now, then how we are going to add those policies here.
So you should be able to still see your network policies here in the same list.
But not the out of the box network policies because they are not deployed in the cluster.
Yeah, where are those stored?
Nowhere. They are just templates that we have on JavaScript,
Okay.
and we deploy them by demand.
So ideally, we would bring that over.
Okay. Okay. Alexander can do that. He's very competent.
You're making me question everything about that I know about that tab. So I'll have to look into that.
So I did not realize that our out-of-the-box policies are all in JavaScript on the front end, apparently. So do copy those over when you move it, please.
That seems wild to me that that's true. And I need to go look at the code a little bit. I'll come back. This looks great, Annabelle. Thank you.
Yeah, and welcome to our meeting.
Thanks. Yeah, so if you have any other comments or questions, please put them on the issue I linked to.
All right, so Lindsay, I think you've got our last item.
So I have to apologize. This is coming very late. This is a conversation we should have had a week or 2 ago, ideally 2 weeks ago, given when we start working on the milestone. It was brought up during our retrospective that because we often plan things very far in advance and go through the refinement and then sort of context switch to other things that were higher priority, that it would be good to come back to these items as sort of a kickoff at the beginning of the milestone. So last week we did this for Threat Insights. We just very quickly went through the list of front end and back end issues in the milestone. And the plan was to do this today for container security. So does anyone think that doesn't make sense or have questions on why we're going to do this real quick? Nope. Okay. I don't feel like I am necessarily the best person to be speaking to all of these things, but I do have the tabs up and I can share. And if Zamir and Alexander could help, I thought for the front end issues, since there were so few epics, that it might make sense to look at them doing the group by epic feature, which I love when there's not 20 epics listed in a milestone. So, we've still got some MVC for we've got at the top of the list is the pipeline, the DAS scheduled scan work. And Alexander, these are both blocked. Is that correct?
I was on vacation for 2 days, so that might have changed. But as far as I know, yes, the backend work is still being completed for these. I am able to do a lot of the work without it. So I'm still moving forward with them and cleaning everything up. But yes, they're still blocked by the backend work.
Okay. Given how many items that you have listed in the ready for development, my main question was, do you have other things to do while you're waiting for the backend work to be done? But it sounds like since you're able to move forward, that's not really a appropriate question. And then there's a few items that were listed with no epic. So the bug around supporting L7 policies in the front end, and then a couple of follow-ups.
Yeah, you can assign that L7 issue to Sam, as he has put up some code for it and seems to be completing it. But I will review the other ones.
Okay, great, thanks. And then there is one issue in refinement. So it's also a follow-up. I don't know if we need to talk about it here or not. And
I can do it asynchronously.
okay, and just to add, this is an activity that Tiago and I usually do with the PMs at the beginning of the milestone. So the fact that we were doing this kind of in private was a sign that it should have been done publicly in the first place. So with the backend issues, I did not do the group by epic because there are so many more issues. Zamir, would you be so kind as to help walk through the items that are at least in ready for development? What we did for Thread Insights was we looked at, where's the blocked column on this board? Do we not have it? Oh, I've got to add it. Weird. Was blocked and ready for development. So let me actually add blocked to this list. I didn't realize it wasn't here. Apologies. And move it to where it belongs, which is right there. And there's nothing. Okay, good. So Zamir, there's only a couple items here. Do you want to kind of walk us through what they are?
Yeah. So in general, most of these features that are there, they're related to the GitLab container scanning that we're going to develop based on Trivi. So a couple of issues there in development, a couple of issues there ready for development, a couple of issues there in refinement, just because they depends on what's ready for development or in dev. But we have nothing blocked there. It's just a matter of going through them one by one.
Great.
And in regards to the one related to DAST, those are assigned to Jan. I'm not 100% sure on how many of them are in progress or if there is anything blocked for him.
I see this one, Zamir. I don't see any other issues here assigned to Jan right now. He may have them here, but without all the labels. I think that there have been a few cases that I've noticed recently of issues that have been created by Jan that don't always have the group label or the milestone label as expected. So they might be not showing right here.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we're missing some for the DAST policy work.
Okay, I can help look for those. We can reach out to Jan. Hopefully he'll watch this video and we can get those corrected and added to this view. And that's the extent of what this was supposed to be. Hopefully nothing that you see when we do this is going to be a surprise. And like I said before, we plan to do this much earlier in the milestone in the future and get feedback on whether this is helpful or not. So thank you.
All right. Well, thanks everyone. Appreciate your time today. Have a good week.
Wait, I'm sorry. I had one more question.
go
I
ahead.
added it to the agenda. Is what I wrote about the navigation accurate? We're just removing threat monitoring, putting policies in, and that's it?
No, we're removing in the threat monitoring page. We have 3 tabs. We have the alerts tab, the policies tab, and the statistics tab.
Okay.
So we are only removing the policy tab from that page. The alert and statistics will still be there.
Okay, so in the navigation, nothing's changing. What I showed was correct. We've got threat monitoring, then policies, then configuration. Yes. Okay.
All right, any other questions? All right, thanks everyone. Have a good week.
Bye, friends.